Good morning. Thank you for being here. We are very pleased to have you join us today for what has become another Academy tradition. This is our third annual Public Speaking Assembly. As part of our core curriculum, all of our 4th through 11th graders have to participate, whether they like it or not, in the annual public speaking program. Every student in 4th through 11th grade memorizes a selection and presents it in the classroom. From there, we have grade level representatives who compete in front of their grade level with judges. And from that, we have today's grade level representatives presenting to all of you their selections from the public speaking program this year. Representing the 4th grade class, I'm pleased to present Miss Sally Walzer.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to play tennis for PE? Having tennis courts at Academy would be awesome. Having tennis courts at Academy would allow us to have great exercise. Studies show that playing tennis is great for the body, mind, and it can even help us have a better school day. It's lots of fun to play tennis. Tennis is a very competitive sport. That feeling when you know you can beat your opponent is like an electric shock springing from head to toe. Also, the tennis team could practice here. Then they could practice more often, and as a result, they could win more. I believe that having tennis courts at Academy would make our school a better place. Thank you.
Our 5th grade representative, Mr. Sam Lowry.
Pickle Me Tickle Me too, by Shel Silverstein. Pickle Me Tickle Me too, went for a ride on a flying shoe. Hooray! What fun! It's time we flew, said Pickle Me Tickle Me too. Ickle was captain and Pickle was crew. Tickle served coffee and mulligan stew. As higher and higher and higher they flew. Pickle Me Tickle Me too. Pickle Me Tickle Me too. Over the sun and beyond the blue. Hold on, stay in. I hope we do, cried Pickle Me Tickle Me too. Pickle Me Tickle Me too never returned to the world they knew, and nobody knows what's happened to dear Pickle Me Tickle Me too.
Representing the 6th grade, Miss Maddie Bain.
Mother Doesn't Want a Dog, by Judith Viorst. Mother doesn't want a dog. Mother says they smell, and never sit when you say sit, or even when you yell. And when you come home late at night, and there is ice and snow, you have to go back out because the dumb dog has to go. Mother doesn't want a dog. Mother says they shed, and always let the strangers in, and bark at friends instead, and do disgraceful things on rugs, and track mud on the floor, and flop upon your bed at night, and snore their doggy snore. Mother doesn't want a dog. She's making a mistake, because more than a dog, I think, she will not want this snake.
And now representing the 7th grade, Mr. Aryan Fagey.
Good morning. My piece is Theseuss Speech from A Midsummer's Night Dream, written by William Shakespeare. I must confess that I've heard so much, and with Demetrius thought to have spoke thereof. But being overfull of self's affairs, my mind did lose it. But Demetrius, come, and come, Aegeus, you shall go with me. I must employ you in some business. For you, fair Hermia, look, you arm yourself to fit your fancies to your father's will. Or else the laws of Athens yield you up. Why, by no means we may extenuate to death or to vow a single life. Come, my Hippolyta, what cheer, my love? Demetrius and Aegeus, go along, I must employ you in some business. Against our nuptial and to confer you of something nearly that concerns yourselves.
So now representing the 8th grade, Ms. Hanley Riggs.
Good morning, everyone. I did the speech that Rocky told his son when he was about to give up on what was really important in life. Somewhere along the line, you changed. Let me tell you a little something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are. It'll beat you down to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, then go out and get what you're worth. But you gotta be willing to take the hits and not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you wanna be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that. And that isn't you. Thank you.
Representing the 9th grade, Ms. Melissa Wark.
My speech is Atticus Finch's Summation to the Jury from To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. To begin with, this case should have never come to trial. The state has not produced one iota of medical evidence that the crime Tom Robinson is charged with ever took place. It has relied instead on the testimony of 2 witnesses whose evidence has not only been called into serious question on cross-examination, but has been flatly contradicted by the defendant. Now, there is circumstantial evidence to indicate that Mayella Ewell was beaten savagely by someone who led almost exclusively with his left. And Tom Robinson now sits before you, having taken oath with the only good hand he possesses, his right. I have nothing but pity in my heart for the chief witness for the state. She is the victim of cruel poverty and ignorance. But pity does not extend so far as to put a man's life at stake, which she has done in an effort to get rid of her own guilt. Now I say guilt, gentlemen, because it is guilt that has motivated her. She has committed no crime. She has merely broken a rigid and time-honored code of our society, a code so severe that whoever breaks it is hounded from our midst, is unfit to live with. She must destroy the evidence of her offense. But what was the evidence of her offense? Tom Robinson, a human being. She must put Tom Robinson away from her. Tom Robinson was to her a daily reminder of what she did. But what did she do? She tempted a Negro. She is white, and she tempted a Negro. She did something that in our society is unspeakable. She kissed a black man, not an old uncle, but a strong, young Negro man. No code mattered to her before she broke it, but it came crashing down on her afterwards. The witnesses for the state, with the exception of the sheriff of Macomb County, have presented themselves to this court in the cynical confidence that the plaintiff's testimony would not be doubted, confident that you gentlemen would go along with them on the assumption, the evil assumption, that all Negroes lie, that all Negroes are basically immoral beings, that all Negro men are not to be trusted around our women, an assumption that one associates with minds of their caliber, and which is itself, gentlemen, a lie, which I do not need to point out to you. And so a quiet, humble, respectable Negro who has had the unmitigated temerity to feel sorry for a white woman has had to put his word against 2 white peoples. The defendant is not guilty, but someone in this courtroom is. Now, gentlemen in the country, our courts are the great levelers. In our courts, all men are created equal. Now, I'm no idealist to believe firmly in the integrity of our courts and our jury system. That's no ideal to me. That's a living, working reality. Now, I am confident that you gentlemen will review without passion the evidence you have heard and come to a decision and restore this man to his family. In the name of God, do your duty. In the name of God, believe Tom Robinson. Thank you.
Representing the 10th grade and his second appearance at the Public Speaking Assembly, Mr. David Singh.
Good morning. My name is David Singh, and I will be presenting What is an American Speech by Secretary Harold Ikes. Secretary Ikes performed this speech in 1941, before America's entry into World War II, to help gain support for intervention. What constitutes an American? It is not his color, nor his race, nor his religion, not the pedigree of his family, nor the place of his birth, not the coincidence of his citizenship. It is not his social status, nor his bank accounts, not his trade, nor his profession, but an American is one who loves justice and believes in dignity of man. An American is one who will fight for his freedom and that of his neighbor. An American is one who will sacrifice property, ease, and security in order that he and his children may retain rights of free man. An American is one whose heart is engraved in the second, immortal second sentence of the Declaration of Independence. Americans have always known how to fight for their rights and their way of life. Americans are not afraid to fight. They fight joyously with a just cause. We Americans know that freedom, like peace, is indivisible. We cannot retain our liberty if 3/4 of this world is enslaved. Brutality, injustice, and slavery, if practiced as dictators would have them, universally and systematically, in the long run would destroy us as surely as a fire raging in our nearby neighbor's house would burn ours if we didn't help to put out his. We must do everything within our power to aid Britain. We must do everything to restore to the conquered peoples their freedom. This means the Germans too. Now, such a program, if you stop to think, is selfishness on our part. It is that enlightened selfishness that makes the wheels of history go round. It is that enlightened selfishness that wins victories. Do you know why? It is because we cannot live in this world alone, without friends and without allies. If Britain were to fall today, then the totalitarian undertaker were prepared to hang crepe on the door of our own independence. Here in America, we have something so worth living for that it is worth dying for. We have not heaved from our necks the tyrant's crushing heel, only to heave from our necks again for its weight. That so-called wave of the future is nothing but the slimy backwash of the past. Not only will we fight for our democracy, but we will make it more worth living for. Under our free institution, we will work for the good of mankind, including Hitler's victims in Germany, so that all may have plenty and security. We American Democrats know that when good prevails among men, there will always be a world of plenty and a world of security. In the words of Winston Churchill, are we downhearted? No, we are not. But someone is downhearted. They have witnessed the terrified flight of Hess, Hitler's number 3 man. Now, listen to this, and listen to this very carefully. Quote, "The British nation can be counted upon to carry through to victory any struggle that it may once enters upon, no matter how long such a struggle may last, or however great the sacrifices may be necessary, or whatever means that have to be employed." And all of this, even though the actual military equipment may be utterly inadequate when that compared to other nations, end quote. Do you know who wrote that? Adolf Hitler in his Mein Kampf. Do you know who took down that dictation? Rudolf Hess. We will help to make Hitler's prophecy come true. We will help brave England fight back the hordes from hell who besiege her, and join together for the destruction of savage and bloodthirsty dictators everywhere. But we must be firm and decisive. We must know our will, and we must make it felt. And we must hurry. Thank you.
So, representing the 11th grade, with his speech entitled, I Believe in the Onion, Mr. Raj Norman.
I do believe in the onion. Not the vegetable, nor any supervillain whose powers force his enemies to tears, but rather the onion, an online newspaper where some of the world's finest articles can be found. At least, that's what their slogan says. Just from a quick glance at their homepage, I'm bombarded with several fascinating titles, ranging from Personal Trainer Impressed by Man's Improved Excuses to White House Running Out of Paintings to Cover Spots Where Obama Has Punched Through Walls. Producing many similar flavorful articles daily, the only question left is, when will they be receiving their Nobel Prize for Literature? I mean, really, where would we be without them? We'd be left with the bland and boring articles of the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, the tofu of news source reporting. And that's why The Onion wins. Its satirical and far-out titles attract readers and allow for the discussion of complicated contemporary topics in a humorous way. For example, let's say we had two articles. The first one titled, American Infrastructure Plans Lack Foundation, and the second one titled, Ambitious New High-Speed Rail Plan Will Fly Americans to Japan to use their trains. Now, automatically, everyone would be much more interested in the second article. That's the power of comedy. Because after all, everyone enjoys fun, even teachers. Because adults are just larger kids masquerading a sense of responsibility, because that's what we expect them to do. And because comedy is seen as not conducive to a working environment, but it is. And we've just seen how comedy can be used to begin important discussions. Now, comedy, the gold of conversation, though, isn't just useful for tackling the growing issues of society, but rather, its uses are infinite. In movies, comedy can be the main theme or a simple statement to lighten the mood of an audience. Online and in the internet, comedy takes full stage through programs like iFunny and Comedy Central. Even in studying, comedy takes the form of quirky mnemonics and funny stories to engrave concepts into the minds of young students. Additionally, without comedy, we'd all live our lives in a drab, mechanical world devoid of fun. In short, I believe in perhaps the most underrated necessity of life. I believe in the power of comedy, and so should you. Thank you.
At this time, I would like to recognize our language arts and English faculty and the semi-finalists for each grade level who competed for the opportunity to speak today. So, representing the 4th grade, our lead language arts teacher, Mrs. Kim Frazier, and the semi-finalists, Addison Frazier, Amy Hahn, Quinn McCormick, Brianna Sosa, and Austin Suarez. Our 5th grade language arts teacher, Mrs. Mireille Williams, and the 5th grade semifinalists, please stand, Natalie Aviles, Kareem Harby, Anissa Nanavati, Ayush Patel, and Anya Jalitz. Ms. Williams also teaches our 6th graders, and our 6th grade semifinalists were Vanessa Alexander, Zoe Moore, Juliana Rogers, McKenna Smith, and Sarah Witt. Mrs. Amy Nadeau teaches our 7th and 8th grade language arts, and her 7th grade semifinalists, Denzel Downing, Maya Wark, and Jordan Witt. In 8th grade with Ms. Nadeau, Carson Passero, Victoria Yanez, and Anna Waller. Mrs. Kim Vreeland is our 9th grade English teacher, and her semifinalists this year, Tanner Bianchi, Melissa Feingold, Lyra Gabordi, Amber Heinig, Elise Lowry, and Grace Zarko. 10th grade English taught by Miss Gail Schaefer, Julia Davis, Neha Gupta, Eduardo Mora, Caitlin Torres, and Aaron Weisbond. And 11th grade, we have 3 sections and 3 teachers. Mrs. Vreeland, Miss Gates, and Miss Schaefer all teach 11th grade English. And our semifinalists were Jordan Dorimal, Morgan Malm, Michaela Owen, and Federico Placanica, and Stephen Ritter. One of the things that we could not do is have this competition without the adults on campus who all joined in together as judges, and I can tell you that it is a difficult job because every student did such a wonderful job preparing this year. So I do want to acknowledge our judges. If you'll wait and hold your applause till I call the entire list. It's a lengthy list. Maynard Baker, Katie Boyd as a past winner and senior, Kathy Carley, Mona Childs, Shaka Cummings, Bree Dold, Kelly England, senior and past winner, Sarah Gates, Paul Haganaw, Tom Haslam, Beth Holt, Sarah Ivy, Sherry Mahoney, Sean Moore, John Pitcairn, Penny Rogers, Barbara Soule, Robert Sullivan, Lisa Taylor, Kirsten Upmeyer, and Lucy Ward. Thank you all so much. And now we have one last thing to do to acknowledge our speakers today. I'd like to ask Mr. Heller, Mrs. Carley, Mr. Pitcairn, and Mr. Sullivan to join me as we present our winners with a token of our appreciation and recognition as the grade level winners of the 3rd annual Academy at the Lakes Public Speaking Contest. Again, representing the 4th grade, Miss Sally Walzer. Fifth grade, Sam Lowry. Sixth grade, Maddie Bain. Seventh grade, Aryan Fagey. Eighth grade, Hanley Riggs. Ninth grade, Melissa Wark. Tenth grade, David Singh. And 11th grade, Raj Norman.